Your time is not infinite. Your energy is not renewable. Your life is not a dress rehearsal. So why do so many spend their one and only chance at this world, majoring in minor things? They perfect the unimportant. They obsess over the trivial. They win arguments that don't matter, post content that doesn't count, pursue goals that won't fulfill them and call it a life. But what they've built is a well-decorated distraction. Because when your priorities are out of order, even your best efforts become empty. When your ladder is leaned against the wrong wall, every step up is just another step away from your purpose. And when you spend your life majoring in minor things, you wake up one day surrounded by results that don't resemble who you were born to be. It's a slow death, one excuse at a time, one click at a time, one meaningless task completed with pride while your calling starves in silence. But it doesn't have to be that way, because clarity can cut through the fog like a sword. And one decision can bring it all back into alignment. That decision? To major in what matters. To stop being busy and start being brutal about what actually belongs in your life. To stop counting tasks and start measuring impact. Because the truth is this: your life becomes the sum total of what you give your focus to. Your results don't lie. They reveal your priorities. Your bank account, your body, your calendar, your relationships. All of them are mirrors not of your desire, but of your discipline. And discipline means choosing what matters most when everything else is screaming for attention. It means deciding that just because something is urgent doesn't mean it's important. That just because it's trending doesn't mean it's truth. It means cutting ruthlessly, not with guilt, but with honor. Because you don't have time to carry what doesn't move your mission forward. You were not put on this earth to be efficient at the irrelevant. You were not born to master the meaningless. You were born to build something eternal. And that building begins in the mind. Because if you don't master your mindset, you'll major in noise. You'll wake up every day pulled by emotion, seduced by comparison, addicted to distraction, and never even notice that your power was leaking. Mindset isn't about motivation. It's about management. Managing what thoughts stay and which ones go. Managing your attention like it's gold, because it is. Managing your reaction so that your energy is used to build, not to battle imaginary threats. Because your mind is a kingdom. And if you let every thought run free, you invite chaos to rule it. But when you take control, true control, you begin to elevate. You stop wasting time trying to change what you can't control and start transforming what you can to yourself. And from that transformation rises belief. Not borrowed belief, not hype, not feel-good affirmation. Earned belief. The kind that comes from keeping promises to yourself. From doing the work when nobody's watching. From showing up again and again, not for praise, but for purpose. Because belief is the gateway to focus. And once you believe that your life matters, your time becomes sacred. You stop trading hours for validation. You stop saying yes to things that dilute your destiny. You stop apologizing for protecting your energy because you know if it costs your peace, it's too expensive. And with that belief comes clarity. Clarity that pierces through the chaos of modern life and says, this is who I am. This is what I'm building. And I refuse to let the minor things run the major show. Clarity brings order. It's the compass in the storm. The still voice that says, not that this, not them this path, not someday now. And when clarity burns hot enough, vision takes hold. Vision that doesn't care about popularity. Vision that doesn't bow to public opinion. Vision that is so clear, it makes average feel like a threat. Because vision isn't something you find. It's something you fight for. And once you have it, it makes saying no not only easier, it makes it essential. Because now you know every yes to a distraction is a no to your destiny. And you don't have time to waste on what won't outlive you. Because once vision locks in, your life is no longer random. It becomes ritual. You don't drift. You design. You don't dabble. You decide. You don't ask, what do I feel like doing today? You declare, this is who I am, and this is what I do, regardless of how I feel. That's the power of purpose. It eliminates confusion. It wipes out distraction. It gives every minute meaning, even the painful ones. Because purpose doesn't just fuel you when things are working. It anchors you when everything's falling apart. It gives weight to your discipline. And discipline is the great separator. Discipline is the immune system against the infection of mediocrity. It is the daily vow that says, I choose what matters most over what feels best. I choose consistency, not convenience. I choose direction, not dopamine. You cannot major in what matters and be a slave to comfort. You cannot build anything eternal by doing what's easy. Discipline isn't sexy. It's not flashy. It's not meant to be posted. It's meant to be lived. It's quiet. It's boring. It's repetitive. And that's why it works. Because while others chase noise, you choose ritual. While they major in minor things, you master what matters. And when discipline becomes non-negotiable, action becomes automatic. Not emotional, not dramatic, automatic. You act because you've already decided. You move because your movement isn't tied to motivation, it's tied to mission. You stop overthinking. You stop second guessing. You stop waiting for a sign because you are the sign. And that movement compounds. Those small actions, they become identity. They become your signature. They become the proof that you are not like the rest because you've chosen a different path. And on that path, every action becomes a statement, not to otherstow yourself. I will not waste my life on the meaningless. I will not give my attention to what doesn't build me. I will not lose years to busyness while my legacy starves. Because now you live in gratitude. Gratitude for the hard path. Gratitude for the narrow road. Gratitude for the ability to choose again, to wake up, to realign, to return to what matters. Gratitude isn't about being soft, it's about being aware. It's seeing the value in the challenge. It's recognizing that even struggle serves your spirit. Because now you don't resist the pain. You redeem it. You use it. You wield it. You wear it as armor. And when pain comes knocking again, you meet it with resilience. Not because you're fearless, because you've trained, because you've built a life so aligned, so intentional, so mission-driven that nothing minor can break you. Not opinions, not delays, not even failure. You don't break. You bend forward. You don't shatter. You sharpen. You don't retreat. You recalibrate. Because every time you rise again, you rise richer. Richer in wisdom. Richer in awareness. Richer in character. And all of that wisdom becomes fuel for your learning. Because you're not here to pretend you know everything. You're here to grow through everything. You listen. You adapt. You adjust with humility and move with conviction. Because learners never lose. They evolve. And evolution is the enemy of average. It is the death of distraction. It is the cure to the disease of majoring in the meaningless. And now you know, this isn't about being perfect. It's about being precise. This isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters. Then let's finish this with fire in your bones and clarity in your soul. Because this is not just another reminder. This is a reckoning, a sacred confrontation between the life you've been living and the life you were born to lead. No more pretending you don't know the difference. No more playing dumb while your calling starves. No more calling burnout grind and mediocrity balance. You know the truth now. You can feel it. Every time you waste your hours on things that don't matter. Every time you chase the applause instead of the alignment. Every time you settle for being impressive instead of being impactful, you feel that whisper inside you go quiet. And now you're done with that. You're done majoring in minor things. You are done being busy instead of being effective. You are done saying yes to everyone while saying no to your own becoming. This is the moment you cut the cord. This is the moment you raise your standard from productive to powerful. Because now, the only things that get your time are the things that shape your legacy. The only things that get your energy are the things that grow your character. The only things that get your heart are the things that carry your purpose. Everything else, gone. You're not ruthless because you're heartless. You're ruthless because you're awake. You've realized that you only get one shot at this, and you are no longer available for anything less than truth. So you draw the line. You declare with your actions, I will not waste my time decorating distraction. I will not live like my days are unlimited. I will not be remembered as someone who almost became something. From this moment forward, you major in what matters. You move with clarity. You speak with authority. You act with urgency. You're not waiting for alignment. You're choosing it. You're not reacting to life. You're orchestrating it, because the man or woman who majors in the essential, who masters the meaningful, who lives every day in devotion to what is eternal, that person changes the world. So let the world chase noise. Let them obsess over vanity. Let them drown in distraction. You walk the narrow road. You speak the deeper truth. You live the kind of life that cannot be ignored, because your focus became your freedom, and your freedom became your flame. Don't major in minor things. Not now. Not ever again. Because the clock is ticking, and the world is watching, and you have work to do. Don't wish it were easier. That's the whisper of the world's weary, the quiet cry of those who feel crushed beneath the weight of their dreams. The ones who stare at the mountain and say, why is this so high? Instead of asking, what must I become to climb it? Don't wish it were easy, wish you were better. Because life doesn't bend to convenience. It doesn't soften its storms because you're tired. It doesn't lower the bar because you haven't trained. Life gives you the weight. It hands you the resistance. It shows you the wall not to block you, but to build you. And the moment you understand that, you stop asking life to be easy and start asking yourself to be exceptional. That's the dividing line. The average seek comfort. The uncommon seek capacity. The weak pray for lighter loads. The strong forge stronger backs. It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to elevate you, because growth lives on the edge of struggle. Power is buried in pressure. And the life you want, the one that burns in your bones, doesn't respond to hoping, wishing, or waiting. It responds to one thing: who you become in the fire. So the question isn't, why is this so hard? The question is, who must I become to match this? When the road is steep, become steeper. When the night is long, become relentless. When the noise gets loud, become silent inside. You don't rise by removing obstacles. You rise by overcoming them. You don't grow by lowering the standard. You grow by raising yourself. And the moment you stop wishing for easy is the moment you begin to unlock your edge. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start becoming a master of response. Because what happens outside, you will always be unpredictable. But who you are inside, that's under your command. And if you dare, if you're bold enough to trade excuses for execution, blame for belief, comfort for character, everything changes. You stop living at the mercy of life. You stop negotiating with your lower self. You stop waiting for motivation to move. You move anyway. That's where power lives. In motion. In decision. In the disciplined act of becoming better when most would have backed down. It's not about shortcuts. It's not about hacks. It's about one truth that separates the winners from the watchers. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better, and then become it. Because wishing is passive. Becoming is power. Wishing waits for the world to change. Becoming changes you, and when you change, the world has no choice but to shift in response. You've been told to manifest, to visualize, to hope with intensity. But hoping without effort is spiritual sedation. Visualization without transformation is just fantasy. If your dream is real, then prove it with your grind. Back it with becoming. The ones who change the world, the ones who leave echoes behind, when they're gone, they don't wish, they work, not just at the task, but at themselves. Every day, brick by brick, they build the foundation that can hold the weight of greatness. They don't ask for an easier path. They sharpen their steps. They don't curse the resistance. They welcome it because resistance is feedback. Resistance is proof that you're moving towards something meaningful. And the ones who rise are the ones who stop asking life to lighten the load and start asking for stronger shoulders. So what's holding you back? Is it fear? Insecurity? Laziness dressed as self-care? Be honest. Because success doesn't care how you feel. It cares who you are. And who you are is whatever you consistently choose to be. You want more? Be more. You want different? Become different. If you're still blaming the economy, the algorithm, your upbringing, your competition, pause. It was never about them. It was always about you. This world rewards the ones who rise not, the ones who complain about the climb. So climb, bleed if you have to, sweat if you must, cry if it comes, but climb anyway. Because you're not just chasing a result, you're forging a resilient identity. You're becoming the kind of person who doesn't shrink in the heat, but who heats the room just by entering it. You're becoming someone who doesn't wait for opportunities, but someone who creates them by sheer force of energy, effort, and elevation. You don't attract success by needing it. You attract it by earning it. Not in the eyes of the world, but in the eyes of the mirror. That's where it all begins. You versus you. You and the discipline you said you'd keep. You and the voice that whispers rest when you haven't earned it. You and the standard no one else will hold you to, but you will anyway. Because you know, wishing doesn't change your life. Work does. And not just working on things, but working on you. So go back to the gym. Go back to the journal. Go back to the quiet. Go back to the grind that doesn't give you dopamine, but gives you identity. Because that's what this game is. Not collecting trophies. Not stacking accolades. Not appearing successful. It's becoming unshakable. And you can't fake that. You can't post your way into that. You can only earn I-tone choice at a time. And if you're ready, if you're done wishing for easier, then everything changes right now. Then step into the mirror of truth, because everything you seek starts here. Mindset, not a buzzword, not a slogan on a hoodie. Mindset is the operating system of your life, the invisible architecture that determines every decision, every reaction, every limit you honor, and every breakthrough you allow. Your mindset is either your greatest weapon or your silent executioner. It is not your genetics. It is not your circumstances. It is not the opinions of people who haven't done what you're about to do. It is your internal code. And the code can be rewritten, but only if you stop treating your thoughts like facts. Only if you stop allowing fear to dress itself up as logic. Only if you confront every story you've repeated to yourself, the ones that say, I'm not ready, it's too late. I've already tried. And instead of reciting them, you rewrite them. Because mindset is not just what you believe, it's what you practice believing until it becomes who you are. A mindset of growth, a mindset of resilience, a mindset that says everything is training. Every loss, training. Every delay, training. Every rejection, every redirection, every painful pause, training. And once you live there, once you breathe that, Once you embed it into your blood, you become unbreakable. Because no matter what life throws, you absorb it, alchemize it, and evolve. You evolve not because the world gets easier. You evolve because you get stronger. And that evolution gives birth to vision. A vision so clear, so precise, so undeniable, that it begins to pull you forward like gravity. You don't chase anymore, you align. You don't hustle for approval, you walk in assignment. Vision gives your pain a purpose. It gives your time a target. It gives your discipline a direction. Without vision, you drift. With vision, you drive. And not just anywhere forward. Past the critics, past the old habits, past the version of yourself that would have quit 6 months ago. Because vision turns work into worship, discipline into devotion. And from that devotion rises purpose. Purpose isn't a poster. It's not a slogan you slap on your brand. Purpose is fire in your soul. It is remembrance. It's remembering why you started, why you woke up early when no one was watching, why you kept going when the crowd went silent, why you said no to what was good enough because you knew you were built for great. Purpose reminds you that your life is not random. Your struggle is not wasted. Your energy is not cheap. You're not here to blend. You're not here to survive. You're here to build something eternal. And that purpose, it doesn't allow shortcuts. It doesn't entertain excuses. It demands discipline daily, not just when it's convenient, not just when it feels good, every damn day. Because discipline is the purest form of self-respect. Discipline says, I value my future more than my feelings. It's brushing past distraction. It's silencing the craving for comfort. It's becoming a master of self, not a prisoner of impulse. Discipline doesn't ask for applause. It asks for consistency. And consistency doesn't come from hype, it comes from identity. You're not doing it for dopamine. You're doing it because this is who you are now. And when that discipline compounds, when you show up through the boredom, through the noise, through the resistance, you don't just create results. You create power. Not the kind that can be stolen or shaken, but the kind that radiates from the core of who you've become. And that power, that's when the world starts to respond differently. Because you're no longer asking, why is this so hard? You're now saying, this is exactly what I needed to become, who I was always meant to be. Then let the fire spread. Because now that mindset is locked, vision is carved, purpose is roaring, and discipline has rooted itself in your bones, now comes action. Not the kind that feels good, not the kind that gets applause, the kind that compounds quietly, day after day, unnoticed, until it becomes undeniable. Because movement is the language of momentum. Action is how belief proves itself. You don't believe in a better future unless your feet start walking toward it. You don't believe in transformation unless your habits embody it. You don't believe in yourself unless your behavior reflects it. Before the breakthrough, before the praise, before the world claps. Real power is when you keep showing up with no guarantee except the one you give yourself. I will not fail because I will not stop. Most people are stopped by silence, by setbacks, by lack of validation. But the ones who rise, they're powered by decision. They don't need a sign. They are the sign. And once action becomes identity, once movement becomes non-negotiable, you realize something profound. The goal was never just the finish line. It was who you had to become to cross it. And that who cannot be shaken. Because now you've earned the right to be called resilient. Not because you never fell, but because you kept getting up. Resilience is the scarred soul that says, try me again. It's the tired body that takes one more step. It's the mind that's been through hell and back and still holds peace like a weapon. It's knowing that everything they used to count you out has become your crown. The failures, the losses, the heartbreaks, you wore them all and you didn't break. You built. And in that building, you became something rare. Resilience is the proof that life hit you hard and you didn't flinch. You adapted. You pivoted. You refused to fold. Because what bends without breaking is what can bend the world. That's adaptability. That's power in its most fluid form. The weak cling to old identities. They refuse to change, and they rust. But the strong evolve. Not because it's easy, but because they're loyal to growth over comfort. Because they don't worship routine, they worship expansion. And so they shift. They rise in uncertainty. They dance with chaos. They meet change with creativity. And life rewards the fluid. Because success doesn't go to the rigid. It goes to the ones who know how to keep their core unchanged while letting everything else transform. And when you live like that fluid, resilient, in motion, and in mission, gratitude becomes your gravity. Not because life is easy, but because you have become strong. Gratitude becomes your superpower. Not the surface kind, but the kind that makes you stop mid-struggle and smile. Because even in the storm, you were made for this. The weight didn't crush you, it crafted you. The pressure didn't break you, blessed you. You no longer need easier. You just need to keep becoming better. And when all of that aligns your mind, your mission, your motion, your meaning, you don't just live. You ascend. And everything you were chasing, now it begins chasing you. Then stand tall, because this is the moment you were built for. This is the moment the old self dies quietly, and the new self rises not as a whisper, but as a roar. This is not motivation. This is metamorphosis. This is not hype. This is holy reconstruction. Because you've burned the bridge back to the version of you that begged for things to get easier. That version who flinched at struggle, who cowered before adversity, who waited for the wind to change before lifting the sail. He's gone. She's buried. What remains is a force forged in pressure, shaped by decisions, defined by discipline, and breathed into power by the fire of unshakable identity. You no longer ask for lighter burdens. You ask for greater strength. You no longer run from the climb. You dig your hands into the mountain and command it to remember your grip. You no longer seek shortcuts. You become the path. The world will try to distract you with comfort. It will seduce you with convenience. It will whisper lies dressed as logic. But you know that ease is the enemy of excellence. You know that the man on the summit was not dropped there he climbed, blistered and bruised, past the bodies of those who waited for the terrain to flatten. You know that the life you want is not hiding from you. It's waiting on you to rise. So rise. Stand not as someone seeking approval, but as someone who remembers who they are. Stand not as someone praying for the finish line, but as someone possessed by the process. You are the fire now. You are the shift. You are the signal that enough is enough. You are the voice inside that says, I do not need easier. I do not need mercy from the mountain. I do not need life to make room for me. I make room for myself. I become undeniable not through noise, not through luck, but through relentless self-mastery. Because that is the only thing that lasts. Jobs fade. Titles fade. Money fades. Applause fades. But who you become, that is forever. And if you've truly decided, if your soul is done tolerating your old life, then from this moment forward, you will never again ask the world to shrink. You will never again wish for comfort, safety, or escape. You will rise with a spine of steel and a soul on fire and whisper the words that changed everything. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. And then become. Excuses are the chains we forge with our own tongues. Excuses are poverty's favorite song sung loud by the mouths of those who have forgotten their power. They dress themselves in logic, wear the mask of reason, and offer the illusion of safety. But make no mistake, every excuse is a prison. Not of bars and steel, but of mindset, of belief, of identity. Excuses don't protect you, they poison you. They strip you of your agency. They whisper in your ear, "You're not ready. You're too tired. You've already tried." And if you believe them long enough, they become your truth. But here's the real truth. No one ever built a legacy by explaining why they couldn't. No empire was born through justification. No greatness was ever forged in the fires of, "I would have, but." Excuses are the vocabulary of the defeated, the anthem of the mediocre. They are the lullaby of those who've chosen comfort over calling. And once you start speaking their language, they become your currency. A currency that buys you sympathy, but never freedom. A currency that keeps you poor, poor in vision, poor in courage, poor in discipline, poor in results. Because poverty isn't just in the bank account. Poverty begins in the mind, and the mind that runs on excuses will never generate wealth, inner or outer. You want to know how people stay stuck? How people live year after year, circling the same problems, the same pain, the same paycheck? They explain it. They justify it. They build narratives that sound intelligent, but are rooted in fear. It's not the right time. I don't have the resources. I wasn't born with the talent. These are not facts. These are scripts. Memorized lines passed down from the poor in spirit. And the moment you stop questioning them, the moment you stop challenging the noise, you inherit a life that is not yours. It is a copy of someone else's limitations. But you are here now, which means the flame is still alive, which means something inside you is tired of the language of lack. And now is the time to trade it in. Trade your excuses for execution. Trade your fears for fire. Trade your doubt for discipline. Because every time you silence an excuse and take action anyway, you reclaim territory inside your soul. You declare, "I am not powerless." You declare, "I do not belong to limitation." You declare, "I will no longer narrate a story of why I can't because I am too busy proving that I can." And that declaration, that's where richness begins. That's how wealth is born. Not just in money, but in character, in energy, in mastery, in the kind of person you become when you stop explaining away your destiny and start claiming it. Excuses are the reason people live entire lives inside cages with open doors. Don't let that be you. Because every moment you allow an excuse to lead your life, you make a payment. And that payment, it's your potential. Gone. Wasted. Traded for the cheap comfort of, "I'll do it later." But later is not coming. Later is where dreams go to die. And the longer you wait, the heavier the excuse becomes. Until one day, it becomes identity. Until one day, it becomes who you are. And once it owns you, it takes everything with it. Your confidence, your clarity, your drive, your results. You become a shell of who you could have been. But you don't have to live like that. You don't have to be a mouthpiece for mediocrity. You can choose right now to speak a different language. The language of the powerful. The language of the focused. The language of the wealthy in mindset. And that language begins with ownership. Total. Radical. Unapologetic ownership. No more blaming the system. No more blaming the past. No more blaming your parents, your boss, your genes, your environment. Because the moment you give someone else responsibility for your pain, you also hand them control of your power. But the moment you say, "This is mine, my life, my responsibility, my choice," that's the moment the chains break. That's the moment the real wealth begins to accumulate, not just in your wallet, but in your being. And wealth responds to those who own their direction. Because ownership is the seed. And when you plant it in the soil of mindset, everything begins to shift. Mindset isn't about being positive. It's about being powerful. It's not about wishing for the best. It's about preparing for whatever comes and knowing you can bend it to your will. The poor in mind ask, "What if it goes wrong?" The rich in mind ask, "What will I do when it does? And how fast will I rise?" Mindset is your fortress. It is the vault where your habits are guarded, your energy is protected, and your future is defended. You don't wait for motivation. When your mindset is strong, you move. because movement is your muscle memory. The difference between success and stagnation is not Luckett's language. And when your internal language is coded in excuses, every external result suffers. But when your language shifts to ownership, everything responds. Because the universe doesn't speak emotion. It doesn't speak intention. It speaks execution. It listens to frequency. And the frequency of belief, of discipline, of purpose, it moves worlds. So when your mindset sharpens, belief becomes the fire inside. Not belief in ideas, not belief in motivation, belief in yourself. And that belief is forged, not found. It is built in silence, in the dark, when no one is watching, when no one claps. It is built when you show up anyway, when you do the thing you said you would, especially when it's hard. Belief is the result of self-trust, and self-trust is the real wealth, because the world doesn't reward who you pretend to be. It rewards who you consistently are. And if you consistently show up weak, scared, or scattered, don't be shocked when life reflects that back to you. But if you show up clear, if you show up with clarity that burns, you stop chasing. You start attracting, because clarity is a magnet. It makes excuses irrelevant. You don't say, I don't feel like it. You say, feelings don't vote anymore. My future does. You don't ask, is this hard? You ask, is this aligned? You don't seek comfort. You seek alignment. And that alignment gives birth to vision. A vision so clear it makes quitting feel like betrayal. A vision so alive you can taste it in the back of your throat when you wake up. Vision isn't a dream, it's a demand. It calls something out of you that fear cannot touch. It makes excuses sound weak in your ears. You no longer have time for maybe. You no longer have space for someday. You are done waiting. You're building. You're becoming. You're moving with purpose now. And purpose doesn't care about how you feel today. It cares about who you said you would be when you were on your knees, begging for another chance. That's purpose. Purpose remembers. It remembers the nights you said, never again. It remembers the promises you whispered when no one was listening. And now it's holding you to them. Because excuses want release, but purpose demands resolve. And once purpose lives in you, discipline becomes sacred. Discipline becomes your highest expression of self-love. You stop negotiating with laziness. You stop arguing with excuses. You stop asking for motivation. You show up, and that showing up is the knife that cuts the cord from poverty. Not just financial poverty, but mental, emotional, spiritual lack. Because you are done living small. You are done speaking the language of the poor. Now you speak in action. You speak in standards. You speak in results. And the world listens. Because now you speak in behavior. And behavior is the loudest belief system. It's not what you say in your quiet moments, it's what you repeat in your public ones. It's not what you feel in bursts, it's what you build in patterns. Action is identity in motion. So if your actions are scattered, your identity is unsure. If your actions are delayed, your belief is weak. If your actions are excuses dressed in logic, then you are not living, you are stalling. But when your actions become disciplined, when your days become precise, when your habits mirror your hunger, then you don't just make progress. You become unstoppable. Because there's something the world cannot deny the man or woman who refuses to stop. Not because they're gifted, not because they're lucky, because they made the decision to move forward even when everything screamed, stay. And that movement is not random. It's adaptable. Because now, you no longer resist change, you ride it. You no longer pray for certainty, you command clarity inside chaos. You no longer fold under pressure, you flex with it. Adaptability is wealth. Not the wealth that shines. The wealth that survives. The wealth that lasts. Because the poor in mindset, they break at the first sign of change. But the rich in spirit, they bend. They morph. They reinvent, not because they're unshaken, but because they're unbreakable. And that unbreakable spirit, that's called resilience. It's not bounce back. It's bounce forward. It's using the fall to catapult your rise. It's using the wound to sharpen your weapon. It's using the silence to deepen your roots. Because resilience isn't built in comfort, it's built in crisis. It's built when your excuses are screaming and you tell them, you don't speak for me anymore. It's built when your body is tired, your mind is foggy, and your heart is aching, but you still show up. Not because it's easy, because it's required, because regret is no longer welcome here, because you've seen what happens when you live in excuses. You felt what it's like to watch others rise while you explain your limits. You've tasted what it means to know you're capable of more and still choose less. And you are done. Done with smallness. Done with softness. Done with maybe someday. Now you rise. And you rise as a learner because you know growth is the only guarantee of freedom. And the moment you stop learning, you start decaying. So you feed your mind like a warrior sharpens their sword. You devour truth. You devour challenge. You devour discomfort. You no longer fear being wrong because being wrong means you're still becoming. You no longer need to be the smartest. You just need to be the one who never stops evolving. Because while the poor argue, the powerful adapt. While the stuck defend their excuses, the uncommon study their execution. And now, so do you. Because you're not here to coast. You're not here to settle. You're not here to fit in with the tired, tame, and terrified. You are here to build, to become, to burn through the limits of your past and give birth to someone the world cannot ignore. Then stand still for just a moment. Let it all sink in. Let the excuses, the lies, the dead weight of average fall off you like old skin. Because this is the moment it all changes. Not because something around you shifted, but because you did. This is the moment you stop negotiating with your lesser self. This is the moment you bury the voice that said, you can't, with the roar of watch me. This is the moment the word someday burns into now. Because now you've remembered who you are. You are not here to explain why you couldn't. You are not here to list the reasons it was hard. You are not here to water down your potential to make the average feel safe. You are here to rise. You are here to become the exception. You are here to build a life so loud with evidence that excuses no longer dare to speak your name. So what's the next excuse? That you're too late? Time doesn't control the one who owns it. That you're too tired? Fatigue bows before purpose. That you've already failed? Then you're one of the lucky ones. Because pain is the only shortcut that matters. You are not your mistakes. You are the lesson pulled from the fire. You are not your past. You are the pattern breaker. You are not your circumstance. You are the creator of new reality. But only if you choose it. Only if you decide that today is the last day you speak the language of the poor. No more I wish. No more I'll try. No more maybe one day. From now on, you say, I will. You say, watch me. You say, this life bends to my will because I no longer bow to mine. Because this is your time. Not when it's easier, not when it's perfect. Now is the only time that ever mattered. Now is the only door that's real. Now is the only moment that separates you from the life you were given and the life you create. So what will it be? Another year of reasons? Another month of stories? Another day of playing small? Or will you rise right now and declare with your entire being, excuses are the language of the poor, and I no longer speak that dialect. From now on, I speak results. I speak responsibility. I speak greatness because I am done justifying mediocrity and I have work to do.